Very good morning to you from the KTN News Center. Many thanks for joining us. You're just in time for Inside Politics, Kenya's premier Sunday morning political broadcast, where, as always, we try to make sense of what's happening in this country in politics and governance. We are focusing this morning on the Kiambaa parliamentary by-election, which went to the United Democratic Alliance, UDA. The ruling Jubilee Party reeling from a major defeat there, UDA bagging their first parliamentary seat. We'll get into that. What are the lessons from Kiambaa? My panelists are already here with me in studio. I shall be introducing them in a short while. Let's get into it. Jubilee Party's loss in the just concluded Kiambaa by-election to a 6-month-old party, the United Democratic Alliance UDA, seems to have exposed President Uhuru Kenyatta, especially in Mount Kenya region, where Jubilee has ruled supreme, despite the president having fronted a candidate to stamp authority in his political backyard. His deputy, William Ruto, seems to have outwitted him in strategy to win the seat. As the president reels from the loss, Ruto appears to be hogging bragging rights. Our senior political reporter, Chris Tairo, looks at what the just concluded by-election means.
The hosting of Kariri Njama, the Jubilee candidate in the just concluded Kiambaa by-election by President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House Nairobi, was a clear indication that he is ready for a political duel at his home turf of Kiambaa County with his deputy William Ruto, who was behind the UDA candidate and now MP-elect John Njuguna Wanjiku. And just like Juja constituency, Jubilee lost the Kiambaa seat, sending signals that all is not well in the party.
It is a huge message that the region is giving him. The mountain is telling him, look, we elected you, we gave you a tenure, finish what is left of your term and make a dignified exit. And he would do well to listen to that voice, because if he doesn't, he's going to find himself being consigned into a corner in which his voice becomes a whimper and counts for very little.
And the deputy president, who sweared to humiliate the president, has well done his job, because he has really turned the president as a lame duck president, and especially in Mount Kenya. It is very unfortunate.
The 6-month-old party, UDA, which Ruto intends to use to seek the presidency, seems to be reaping big from the Jubilee Party, especially from Mount Kenya region, having bagged 1 parliamentary seat and 2 civic seats in the recent by-election, and Ruto says bring it on.
Na unajua watu wa Kiambaa tuliwafanyisha mtihani mgumu sana to choose between the present and the future. Na wakawa ni watu werevu, watu wa Kiambaa na Muguga. Wakasema, we have business with the present, tutapatia kiti ya Muguga. Na pia tuko na mpango ya future, wakapatia kiti ya UDA kutoka Kiambaa. So simunaona ni watu wamejipanga.
Politicians who have remained loyal to the party are already sending red flags stating that all is not well. In her social media account, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru indicated that it is true that Jubilee supporters are unhappy.
In the coming days, I think we are likely to see a lot of defections. There are people who read the signs, who looked in the crystal ball. Irungu Kangata, who is the senator from Murang'a, having even been made the leader of the majority in the Senate, smelled the coffee and he migrated.
With the exit of President Uhuru Kenyatta next year, the Mount Kenya region appears not to have a ready kingpin to take over.
The mountain has become one of those places in this country where the leaders must listen to what the people want. They must listen to what the people are saying and follow the people, rather than expecting that the people are going to follow them.
There have been reports that plans to do an overhaul of the Jubilee Party leadership on grounds that they have been failing in their duties are in the pipeline. Chris Tairo, KTN News.
All right, thank you, Chris. Joining him in studio this morning is political analyst Dennis Ndumbi, political editor at the Standard Group, my colleague here, Rosalind Obala, and political strategist and lawyer Kipchumba Karori. Joining us later on will be Dismas Mokwe, shall be joining us later from our city center studio. Dennis, let me begin with you. What are your thoughts from Kiambaa by-election? UDA, the first parliamentary seat. Jubilee losing a very crucial seat, it would seem, for the president. Kiambaa, the home of Mbiu Koinange, who was a Kenyatta inner circle person. Did you expect that?
Thank you very much, Ben, and good morning, viewers. I think this is a very fundamental place and process in our politics today in this country. Because for the first time, we have seen an adage or a proverb that has not delayed but has come to play. We have been consistently saying Wanjiko, 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 and literally Wanjiko floored the barons and overturned. And I think the thing that has demonstrated itself is what it is that people have been thinking it's a fable, but it is actually a force. The Hustler Nation as an emancipatory social force that is challenging traditional sources or pillars of power that have been outlawed and taking charge of their socio-economic status or prosperity. And I think we are seeing, in Kiambaa, we saw the agrarian movement, the peasant, speaking loudly. And we also saw grave mistakes that were made by the other side. But also, one of the critical things that we have been saying, and Muluka has said, is the death of Jubilee and something that has been outlawed by the Constitution, which we call witchcraft or necromancy, the attempt to resurrect the dead, is something that is outlawed. And we saw people like Kanini Kega trying to resurrect something that has been done. And I think this is a confirmation
you really
that the
think
country...
So? I mean, the margin was what, 500 and...
No, you see,
41
let me tell you something. I think
the difference?
we are in a place where we have to argue from an ideological point, not necessarily study the statistics of the day. We are in a pandemic. There's apathy consistently. You understand? We need to see that a son of a single mother from a peasant background can turn the tables within no time, whatsoever. And that is the narrative that the deputy president has been pretending, that you can be anybody and you don't necessarily have to be from a particular bloodline. And that is what Kariri Njama got it wrong. Because Kariri Njama thought that it is a particular bloodline that endorses people into leadership, and the democratic exercise of power by people is a futile exercise that is exercised in the ballot. But there was a demonstration by the peasant Wanjiko to show that, you know what? Article 1 of the Constitution is being entrenched now more than ever. Socio-economic rights under Article 43 must be realized now more than ever. And I think it's a case study that must be studied by scholars, by usual people, whatever it is that there is. We must benchmark the politics of the country based on what Wanjiko, the Hustler Nation, and UDA did in Kiambaa. And it must transpose across the nation.
All right. Rosalind, you and your team were covering this for weeks and the election day itself. Where do you think Jubilee got it wrong, or UDA got it right?
Ben, if you look at the Kiambaa by-election and you just mirror it with what we saw in Juja, I think this is the first time that we saw Jubilee actually mount a team in Kiambaa. And because of that, you can see even the margin of difference was actually narrowed as opposed to what we saw in Juja, where PEP actually floored the Jubilee candidate. But if you look at all this, the dynamics on the ground is not even about the Wanjikos and the people speaking. There is also the other aspect of, is it a protest vote against the Jubilee party? Because the people in the county or in this constituency believe they have their son at State House. And it all boils down to also the issues of economics. People are not having money in their pockets. People are actually suffering in terms of medicine and all that. So as much as the hustler narrative is picking up, there is also the issue of the protest votes. Now, these were the two top contenders. So you are either voting for Jubilee or you are going with UDA. So UDA got actually a good landing point because, one, they also had the sons and daughters of Kiambaa County leading the campaigns. On the other side of Jubilee, we saw mostly the outsiders. That is the face we were seeing in the campaigns. We were told Kiambaa Senator was there, Kimani Wamatangi, but he was actually not visible in that campaign. We were seeing the faces of Kanini Kega, Sabina Chege, Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Kimunya. So if you look at the people who are actually leading the campaign, they were not actually the people from that county. On the other hand, just last month we saw the county woman representative, Gadoni, decamp to UDA side. And then also, if you look at the MPs of Kiambaa County, majority have already crossed over to Tangatanga. So that again gave Tangatanga an upper hand because the locals are with them, and also they were the ones leading the campaign. On this other side, mostly the outsiders were the face of that campaign.
All right. Kipchumba Karori, congratulations for your team, the UDA team, taking the first parliamentary seat. What are your thoughts on what happened in Kiambaa?
Thank you, Ben. The by-election in Kiambaa got me reflecting on a lot of issues. Number one being how unpopular a president can become. Because ask yourself this question. This is Uhuru Kenyatta's backyard. And not any other. Even Juja was his backyard. But Kiambaa is where his in-laws are, the Koinanges. That is an extension of Gatundu. It is the home of the most sophisticated people. Actually, apart from Icharia, the former member of parliament, and Wanjiku, actually, even Icharia was a billionaire. And Wanjiku now is the first normal Kenyan of peasantry to win that seat. With that background, Uhuru Kenyatta had the support of, they mobilized all the local chiefs, they barricaded all the roads, they had what we call the deep state, and with the support of NASA and everybody else. But he can't win a seat in his backyard. That speaks to what Irungu Kangata wrote as we crossed the year, in December last year, about issues back at home. And I think when Irungu Kangata wrote that letter, it was the first time we thought about Uhuru Kenyatta becoming lame duck. But I think the recent happenings in Kiambaa and Juja have confirmed to us that indeed Uhuru Kenyatta is a political star, is not becoming bright. And when confronted with an option of choosing between basking in the evening sunset or the morning sun, the people of Kiambaa chose to bask in the morning sun because that is where history is going. You cannot live in the past. But the other thing, which is a more fundamental question, is this, which we need to ask is, how the workings within Jubilee also makes you question a lot of other things. How they took a candidate who, on the beginning of this by-election, had around 70% in terms of popularity, raised him down to 49, is what we need to ask. What is happening with the party? The other question you need to ask yourself is, this has confirmed what we have always seen, that if you make the wrong mistake in terms of a popular political party, you pay for the sins. Kiraito Murungi and Munya paid for the sins. Martha Karua and Anne Waiguru paid for the sins. Buzeki and Mandago, Buzeki paid for it. In Bomet, Joyce Laboso and Isaac Ruto, Isaac paid for it. No matter how big you are, when a popular party fills a candidate, at times it is not about your popularity, but about the resonance of the party with the people. The other question, which I think also, Ben, we need to disabuse, is the idea that the political net worth of UDA and in extension William Ruto in Kiambaa is 50%. Why? That is not the idea. In 2012, when Michuki died, there was a by-election in Kangema where Tyrus Ngao won the seat and he bet somebody from UDF.
Yes.
The subsequent election in 2013, the percentage Uhuru got near fanatical following there. Look at what happened in Meru. In Meru, the margin between Kiraitu and Munya was so thin, but the presidential vote went,
the
just the last point, went to Uhuru Kenyatta. And now, look at even what's in Gishu. The margin between Mandago and Buzeki was so thin, but what about the presidential vote? So at the end of the day, and maybe as a point that we must make to just tie the loose end, for the last 4 years, Kariri Njama has been a hustler nation candidate. He's still a hustler to date, but the confusion that comes with an election when it is announced, he found himself in another party, which is unpopular in that part of the world. What happened to somebody who was little known? Wanjiku was nobody. Even when you look at the photos when William Ruto was last in Kiambaa, Wanjiku was a man standing in the periphery because he stood no chance. I saw that photo.
There are those people who say they expected UDA by how they have been saying that they have Kiambaa, that they would have won by a much larger margin, and especially with the president did not go to campaign for the Jubilee candidate. What do you say to that?
No, Ben. What do you mean when you say the president did not go? We saw his spirit there. Look here. President Uhuru Kenyatta gave some kind of a hat to that candidate, Kariri Njama. President Uhuru Kenyatta was put in the posters. Actually, and I told somebody, I had Mark talking here, saying it is Uhuru Kenyatta on the ballot. That was also a political misnomer. You don't do that. Because by tying a candidate to other baggages of Jubilee, you know Jubilee has been in power for 9 years, Ben. The people in that part of the world are suffering. When you tie
the deputy president has also been in power for 9 years.
But we know he has been put in a fridge for the last 5 years.
What does
so, let me just clear something. You've said that people think that the UDA will have performed better. Look at it this way. UDA is a party that was rebranded 6 months ago. UDA is a party that it is for the first time we saw national intelligence coming and taking part in an election.
Yes.
It was for the first time we saw chiefs becoming part of an election, whereas even the election regulations do not have them. Because IBC is independent. So with that, Ben, and the money that was poured in Kiambaa, even being
UDA also poured money.
No,
a lot of money.
Yeah.
We did not.
A lot of money.
We are
okay. Rosalind,
I think what we need to clarify here, Wakili has talked about Kariri Njama being a hustler nation member and also Wanjiku. So I think when we look at who has won in Kiambaa, this is the first time that a commoner, whether it would have gone to Jubilee or UDA, is the same. Because if you look at the history of Kiambaa, from the time of Miu Koinange to Njenga Karume to Stanley Githunguri to Paul Koinange, this is the first time we are seeing a name that nobody knows. And even when you do a background on these two candidates, you find that there are people have not known. And then two, when you talk about Uhuru and Ruto being in the ballot, remember this is the first time the president and his deputy were going different ways. This is the first time that Ruto actually came out to support the UDA candidate and Uhuru on the other side. So as much as this was a by-election, we look at it in terms of a contest of the two top leaders. That this is the first time, as much as it was Jubilee versus Jubilee in another name, but they were facing off in this contest.
All right. What does this mean for Ruto, from where you stand?
I think we have to look at it from a different angle. We have to look at UDA confronting the weakest link, and we have to look at transitioning environments. One of the things, Ben, that we have to agree is that Jubilee is elitist, non-transparent, and ideologically impotent. You understand? Was. Actually, the term is not is, was. Because we have to discuss Jubilee from a past perspective, not present. Because Jubilee has failed to deliver the wishes and the promises that it made. Not just failed. Jubilee has assassinated the livelihoods of Kenyans. COVID billionaires, name it. I mean, in the African context, especially in Kikuyu land where we come from, haukuli pesa ya matanga. You understand? It is a taboo, and Jubilee has done that. And Wanjiku was waiting for the proponents of what we call thugocracy. You understand? Rule by thugs. To make sure that now we sing dirges to you and we bury you permanently. And I'm shocked that undertakers like Kanini Kega were there purporting to succeed democracy when they are the ones who have killed the promises of Kenyans. And not just, they have made sure that they punished every good standing politician
All right.
in Jubilee, and they made sure that there is no build of a strong party. By the way, when you look at party politics in Kiambaa,
let me just put a pause on that. We're coming back after the break to to wind up on more on this. We'll be coming back after this quick commercial break to just look at what this means for Ruto, what this means for the president, and what it means for all those people jostling for the presidency in 2022. Shall be joined by Dismas Mokosha. We are having some technical issues with our city center signal, but for now, I want to take you to the county of Baringo, where it is the last final